everybody. Today we have my friend Jamie Maddox, and she is a wealth mentor. I'm going to let her talk a little bit about it, but she uses a lot of body mapping and breath work in her work with her clients. I have been a client of hers. I've experienced these massive shifts in the work that we've done. So I wanted to share her with all of you. So, Jamie, you want to go ahead and say hello?
Yes, thank you, Aubrey. It's so fun to be here. So I really just help women transform their relationship with money, learn how to manage their money, and really how to embody the life that they really desire and the wealth that they desire. So it's really fun.
Ooh, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. I think women in particular have more issue with that because society doesn't have us believe that maybe we are an avenue to be wealthy.
Yes.
We like get that from a husband or from, passed down the line or something. So it's really important when women get to own that. That's powerful work. That's incredible. And I've had my own issues with with figuring that out. So maybe that's why I'm so drawn to you.
Well, and that's what I love because, sometimes we'll look at people and in our eyes we're like, oh, they've got it figured out. They're already successful. They're good, right? And what I've learned is I'm like, regardless of where you feel like you're at and quote unquote in comparison to other people, I'm like, we all have our own like issues or something coming up or something new to kind of work through or get into alignment. And so I love it because no matter where a woman is at, there's always more that she can do to really align herself with her desired wealth.
Yeah, I mean that's like the whole premise of healing. My gosh,
Hmm.
there's always another layer. And
Right?
I'm not saying you can't be happy in the meantime and feel
Right.
fulfilled, but you don't really get shocked when all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, there's something else for me to work on," right?
Yes,
But I
exactly.
mean, to be honest with you, I feel like with wealth, maybe it's harder for some people to think about it like that because personally, I feel like when there's a setback, let's say in receiving money, there's a setback, maybe you have a down month. A lot of entrepreneurs know that month to month, things kind of go up and down. I mean, it's somewhat normal, right? It's hard to get stuck in that and be like, this means what I'm feeling today means that I have failed, or means
Yeah,
that we're
right.
never gonna reach where I want to be because how I feel right now in this moment, never mind what I felt like last month when I had an awesome month, but right now,
Yes. Oh my goodness, so
just
true.
me.
No, it is not just you. Right, right.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's powerful. Yeah, talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you help people to not take it so seriously when we don't have a great day with our money situation or something like that?
yes. Okay, no, I think that's beautiful. One of my biggest keys is I'm like, to step back. So recently I was with a client and she was like, "Oh, I've had a terrible December. I've had a terrible November, and even October was awful." So I was like, "Okay, great. Let's look at your quarters. Like let's just look at the 3 months for the whole year." So she added up her money and then we even looked at like her prior year and her quarters. Her lowest quarter compared to the prior year's quarter was still 150% increase. And overall, she had still over doubled her income from the prior year. And all of a sudden, she was like, oh, maybe I'm not doing too bad.
Oh no.
And I was like, exactly. I was like, so like sometimes when we're like, oh, today doesn't feel good, this one doesn't feel good, I'm like, just open the lens, see the bigger picture, you
I
know?
think I think you're speaking to me.
Oh, okay,
I feel like that would be me. You're into numbers. You have this background
good.
of accounting, right? Like that's
Yes.
pretty
Mhm.
much like your basis, what you went to school for, numbers. Some of us don't. Some of
Mhm.
us some of us like me, lean way more on the spiritual side and the emotional side and how things feel uh heavy
Yeah.
into being an empath, and it's just kind of hard to ignore that sometimes. But thinking maybe I'm not looking at the numbers so much, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, like not having that, okay, let's take that step back and let's compare our numbers, let's compare the year, let's do this because I feel like that's so helpful, and it's just like such a duh advice. Like, why don't you do that? But yeah, I totally understand that some people definitely would overlook that. Now this podcast, there's a lot of people who listen who are, quote unquote creatives, right? We kind of have that artist mentality where a lot of times we're not looking at the facts, we're not looking at the numbers, and someone needs to reel us back in to reality. So I think that's super, super beneficial for a lot of people that can relate to how I feel. To be able to take that look and look at the actual numbers. Ooh.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because I do have this background with accounting and everything, so everyone's like, "Oh, you're so left brain," and I'm like, "No, but that's the beauty. Whether you are, more one side or the other, so let's say like with your audience, so with creatives, okay, so hiring someone to help with numbers, which I know sometimes when you're especially starting out, like that's not always an option, so
Yeah.
also don't stress if that's not where anyone's at, but like just having someone to help or just being like, okay, once a week I'm going to check in on my numbers and look at the overall picture. But it's a skill because a lot of women aren't taught that they can be good with numbers or that they are good with numbers or that it's a skill that can be learned. And it
Yes.
doesn't mean that it's like the most fun, but you know what I mean? But I'm just like, no, it can be a skill and you can start real small, because it
Just
does,
because
it
you're
helps.
not God-given talent in that
Yes.
area doesn't mean, yeah, and I totally track things.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I have that. I learned that from honestly money mindset books that, hey,
Yeah,
you need to actually track this because where you put your attention, that's where things grow. And I found
yes.
that 100% to be true in every other area in my life. So why wouldn't that be true with money? So I
Yes,
started
exactly.
I started adding that in. So personally, I do like see that like every month or when something comes in or someone books in my program or something, I automatically put it in there. Like, um,
Yeah.
so you're right. It can totally be a learned skill. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be,
Mhm.
oh, like this crappy feeling just because maybe if you're not where you think you want to be. Like
Yeah.
being able to separate, I think those emotions from that too is huge.
Yeah. Well, and that's really where like the relationship comes from. You know what I mean? Like, because
True.
when we think about like relationships with people, is it always 100%? We're always having our favorite conversations, our favorite interactions, our favorite good things. No, there's usually some hard conversations. There's things that, maybe aren't always the best, little
True.
irritations, so I'm always like, that's what I remind my clients a lot with. I'm like, well, it's the same with money. Like, there's things that sometimes you have to have a little bit of a hard conversation, be like, hey, money, not going so well this month. Let's chat. What do we need to do? Like, where are things not being communicated, and just kind of thinking
That's
it that
awesome.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. I actually, because I'm already so interested that you are this wealth mentor, I've kind of gone off on a tangent and I forgot that I absolutely wanted to talk about you doing this body mapping
Oh,
technique on
yes.
me where I
Yes.
no, is it called nose reading?
So it's a discover your nose session, but yeah, it's a body mapping nose reading. That's great. Yes, it's a nose
So
reading.
So I had Jamie do this discover your nose session on me and I loved it. I thought it was so amazing. I got the recording. I haven't rewatched it. I'm someone who likes to listen and just like take it in and then throughout the days just be like, wow, that was really cool. And this was cool about that. So I'm going to love listening to it again.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'd love for you to talk about maybe a little bit what you do in that session, and feel free to also mention things that you discovered on mine because this is going to be a YouTube video too where people can see. And I'm going to lead us in, Jamie, because when you said when you said I had a heart-shaped nose, I have not been able to unsee that. I'm like everywhere. I'm like, oh, I've got this heart-shaped nose. And I even
Yes.
told my daughter, and she was like, Mom, I see it.
Yes, yes.
Go
Okay,
ahead,
no.
talk a little bit about that.
Okay, I'm glad people will be able to see your nose too, because yeah, this is good. So body mapping is basically that our whole entire body gives us information about ourselves, whether it's our shape, our size, if things are in proportion, out of proportion. And the nose in body mapping is all about what we value, our money, our time, our relationships. So hence, that's why I always start with the nose, right? Because I'm like, And it's,
Wow.
yeah,
You
and
would
it's
say
fast.
that's the place you would actually start with when using body
Yeah.
mapping. Oh, so it's like
Well,
super
at
simple.
least for me,
Yeah,
where I
yeah,
do the money. Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, just looking at someone's nose, I instantly know a lot about a person. And the best thing about the sessions is because I can say, well, this is what your nose is telling me. And then as I talk with the person, I can either see if they've had a lot of programming that has shamed them against their nose, or kind
absolutely.
of, right, and so then we can kind of say, okay, well, let's see where this balance is. Where can we find some alignment here for you? So, okay, so Aubrey, yes, with your cute heart-shaped nose, your session was so fun. So if people kind of look at Aubrey's nose, there's this little bit of like just a little point at the top. Okay, that's actually a really good angle. You can really
Yeah,
see it, Kay.
I can
And
see it all the time now. Look at, there's a heart, you guys.
yes,
The
it's
sun
so
came in.
fun. It's so fun. And the thing that I love about heart-shaped nose people is like you guys just give from the heart, and like everything you do is so heart-centered, and just knowing your business, I'm like, oh, it just fits. And
Completely fits. And the
yeah.
weird thing is too, I also have a defined heart in human design, which is not that common. Just
Mhm.
and it's the
Yeah.
same meaning behind it. It's
Yeah.
like heart-led people. So
Yeah, like yeah,
crazy,
yeah, you know
right?
your heart, you're in tune with it. Exactly. Well, one thing I really love with heart shapes, and it's one thing that I liked about your session was just they give the best gifts, like with people. And so usually when I talk to a heart-shaped nose person, they're just like, oh yeah, like I gave this gift and I thought about it and I knew it would just the person would love it. But it is hard to give gifts to a heart-shaped nose person because usually the rest of us are not as good at it. And we're like, I got you a gift card. And you're like, thanks. Did you even think about
Oh
me?
my gosh. Next time you're doing like a secret Santa and you see the person, check out their nose. If that's a heart
Yes.
shape, you better put some more thought into it.
Yes. Exactly, exactly. Well, even like with relationships, because my mom actually has a heart-shaped nose, and so it's been interesting because I've kind of watched and I'm like, oh, she does give very good gifts, and no wonder Christmas can be sometimes a hard time of year because, I mean, bless my dad's heart, he does the best that he can, but he doesn't have a heart-shaped nose, right?
Oh, funny. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So yeah, so it's very fun as I talk with people, and then as we discover their nose, we obviously talk about gifts and stuff, but we can also talk about like how does that relate to your business or to your money or to your where you're at in your life right now and where you want to go with what you value.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, as far as giving, like, I'm always this person that people sign up to my program or they sign up to my membership. I'm that person that's like, I'm going to give them more than what I promised. I'm going to, do more. And, that's amazing, especially if you're the recipient. But you have to also understand like your own capacity. And so that's something that
Yeah.
I've struggled with. It's like, okay, but
Yeah.
what's your actual capacity? What can you
Hmm.
actually put out there because now you have these clients, now you have this group, now you have whatever. Like being able to
Right.
also pull back from that. So there's like definitely pros to everything, and then there's also like those little cons. Those are like your little
Yeah.
weaknesses that you get to work at.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But like you're saying, like when you're aware of it, that you can be like, okay, apparently
Yep.
I'm overgiving here. Let's pull back just a little
Yep.
bit. Yeah. Hmm.
Sometimes awareness on itself is a gift, and,
Yes.
and so doing a session like this with you, or when, like in my world, I do a lot of subconscious work with people, and sometimes them just understanding, like, oh, that's why I'm like that. It also gives them freedom to detach themselves from those kind of shame that they feel around that, or that kind of embarrassment or
Yes.
whatever, which is ultimately leads to a lot more growth, right? So awareness
Yeah.
is huge. When you do a
Absolutely.
session with someone, when you do like the Discover Your Nose session, it's what, like 45 minutes to an hour long?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an hour long. Yeah.
And what other things about like money or wealth can you see in a nose?
Yeah. um, I can see how prone they are to be big spenders. So if they so my cute daughter has a very wide nose, and I mean, I just see this all the time. I mean, she will buy everything and anything, and that's where I had to like learn is that it wasn't necessarily that she was like greedy or selfish or some of these things that we label kids as. I was just like,
Oh,
oh, I just know her nose is wide, and she's gonna buy everything. She's
oh my
gonna want everything. And so when I realized that after I had, got certified, I was like, it quit bugging me as much. Does that make sense? Because I'm now just
God.
like, I just know that I need to just help kind of guide her, and she's allowed to want everything, but we also have budgets, we also
Yes.
have space. They're just things you have to learn. And so
Yeah.
that's really good.
Oh,
Um,
and I want to say one thing about that. You guys don't go look in the mirror and say, "Oh, my nose is wide,"
yes,
because
thank you.
Jamie uses specific like measuring techniques. So it's not just the wideness, but it's the relation between certain points, right? I mean, am I getting that
Yes.
correct? Okay. So it's
Yes,
not
I'm
just like
so
don't
glad you
go
said that.
self-diagnosing yourself and being,
Yeah.
oh crap. Because
Right.
you take like she'll walk you through like, moving a finger around or just like it's all in reference. So it's not a blanket statement.
Yes. Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Right, because sometimes after people hear things about, especially about body mapping, they're like, "Oh, I want my nose to be this way, or I want this featured because it means this thing." I mean, let's be honest, we all do it, right? And so, yeah, it's like the measurement is so important. And so, I mean, as Aubrey, as you know, I actually have people send me pictures of their nose before the session, so I get like a good visual. Then we measure while we're on the call together because, we want it as accurate as possible. Because when we see ourselves accurately, again, it's that awareness. We then know what we're dealing with, we know what actions to take, where we kind of have some missteps to avoid, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys, if you want a heart-shaped nose, you just have to do this a lot. I feel like I do that a ton. I'm like, did I make this?
That is hilarious.
Kidding. I have a background in body stuff, right? Like the massage
Mm,
therapy, the craniosacral, like I know all about fascia. And to me, it makes perfect sense because to me, I'm like, well, my fascia has pulled so much now in certain areas based off of these actions that I take or the type of person I am. And now I'm molding into that. Like when I look at my parents,
yes.
I no longer can say, oh, I have her nose. We look
Hmm.
different. Our
Yeah.
noses look different. Like when I look at my daughter, she got my nose. I mean, it's pretty clear, but yet she doesn't have this. She doesn't have
Hmm.
like that. No, yet. Okay, she's still very young, but your fascia and things move around and they pull. And to me, it makes perfect sense that the energy of your life is also ingrained in that. And it's also has to do with that movement. And again, like you had mentioned before, like our noses grow, right? Our ears grow, right? These are
Hmm.
things that continue. It's why there's no old people with really tiny noses and ears, right?
Right.
You
Yeah,
ever noticed
exactly.
that?
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, there's only a few places on our body that continue to grow and change. And so it is interesting. Some people can, especially after they get into the healing work or whatnot, they can look back at prior pictures and they'll be like, oh, my nose does look a little bit different, or. And so that's always fun too, to be like, well, let's chat about what was it like before and what's in your life now and why might some of those things have shifted.
I love that because I mean, I'm 40 and I feel like I've just came into myself the last few years. I mean,
Yeah.
now I probably would have said that a few years ago too, because like I've inched towards more
Hmm.
of like what makes me happy, what makes me what I call soul aligned. But definitely in the last couple years and being able to do this intuitive work with people, that's when it's really shifted. And I
Yeah.
never noticed this heart before. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of fascinating. I mean, it's just,
Right.
I think when people open their mind to what the possibilities are with their body and with their energy and just the things that they're putting
Yes.
out, like when we can look at our lives now and say, guess what? Guess what, you guys? Everything in your current reality is an extension of the choices you've made and the way you feel about things. Like, sorry, but we make our own beds in the good and the bad, right?
Yeah. Right.
I don't necessarily make beds, but I'm just saying in general.
Yes, exactly.
So
Exactly.
anyway, I love talking about this stuff with you. Is there anything else you
Yes.
want to share about the nose or about any body mapping in general, just so people can get a better idea of what exactly it is?
Yeah, just something that I always like to reassure people with is that your body is exactly how it's meant to be, and it's just information. So even if there's a place that you maybe don't love as much, or you're trying to love, or even just like, is just information, and that's why our bodies shift and change over time because it's just giving us information. And so I know there's people that hate their nose, love their nose, and it's like allow yourself to feel that, also knowing that it's just giving you information. And so that's the beauty of body mapping, is just getting that deeper dive of information and allowing yourself to see yourself more clearly.
Yep, absolutely. It's always information.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that, Jamie. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing so much with us today.
Yeah,
I'm sure
you're so
people,
welcome.
I mean, even me being in this world and not being shocked by your work at all, like I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. I even was surprised by how much information you can grab. And so I know there's some people listening now that are like, that's bizarre, but it's cool at the same time.
Right, right.
So if they want to maybe reach out to you, maybe be in your space, in this container that you hold, like you have a Facebook group, like what are some ways that people can reach out to you, maybe even book one of the sessions?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
do that.
So yeah, so my Facebook group is Healing Hope with Jamie, and I actually have a free body mapping 1 hour session in there where people just got to ask me questions. So if you're like, okay, I'm intrigued but a little weirded out, um, I'll go and tag it to the top of my group, so you can join the group and then go look at that, watch the video, and kind of get a deeper understanding of it. I also have my website, healinghopewithjamie.com. Jamie is
You
Jamie.
knew I was going to ask that. I was
Yep.
about to ask that.
I know, I'm like that. That's always the one common mistake. So, but yeah, right at the top of my website is a Discover Your Nose session. And so if you're like, okay, what does my nose mean about me? I need this information. I would love to have a session with you. So just go to my website. You can click on there, and then we can get that booked and just dive
Oh,
into what
so
it means.
fun. It was ridiculously fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like, I felt, and I don't know, maybe not all your sessions, maybe people don't always feel super positive about it because not, like you said, not everybody loves their nose. Not everybody loves getting information if it contradicts what they already feel, right? Like that's
Mhm.
always hard. That's the space we're in with healing.
Right, right.
But for me, I found it to be like really exciting and fun and just kind of like I felt like I was being praised.
Yes.
So crazy, but I felt like I was like, yeah, I'm on this pedestal today. I got this heart-shaped nose and all these things. I feel so good about myself.
Yes, yes, and that's how I want people to feel. Like, honestly, whether they don't like their nose or they love it, I'm like, I mean, things are going to come up, but that's really, I'm so glad that's what your takeaway was, because I'm like, no, let's celebrate you. Let's celebrate that
Yeah, I
beautiful
felt
heart-shaped
celebrate. I
nose.
was like the
Yeah,
queen of my nose.
yeah, right, right. And you wear it well.
I mean, I have to. It's mine. But
Exactly,
yeah, it was
exactly.
just an amazing experience. So, if anything, if they at least open their mind to maybe more possibilities about what their body is saying about them, I think that your Facebook group would be a great place to even start. So, I will
Yeah,
put that in the notes on the
beautiful.
YouTube video and in the show notes on the podcast, so people can reach out to you and connect with you. And are you mostly on Facebook? Are you on Instagram?
I am on Instagram. Yeah, I do quite a few reels on there. So again, Healing Hope with Jamie. Um, yeah, and then I do
Oh,
have a YouTube channel. It's slowly growing. So same thing, Healing Hope with Jamie. So pretty much any socials, just the Healing Hope with Jamie.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Jamie. Thank you for sharing your love for the body and for money and for wealth and for women.
Yes.
It's so inspiring, and I super appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Thanks.